In the quiet aftermath of the Festival of Masks, the young noble Alaron retreats to the sanctity of his chamber, a room adorned with artifacts of his lineage and the heavy scent of incense. The moon casts a silver glow through the windows, laying bare the turmoil etched across his face. He paces slowly, hands clasped behind his back, each step a measure of the war waging within. Alaron's mind replays the night's events. The swift fall of Magistrate Corvinus, the chilling sight of the Black Feather, and the assassin's ghostly departure. The weight of his secret is a tangible presence in the room, and with it comes a cascade of questions. Should he reveal what he witnessed and potentially unmask the silent footsteps? Or should he remain silent, safeguarding his own life and the fragile peace of Veilgarden? The dilemma gnaws at him. As a noble, he bears the responsibility to uphold justice. But the assassin's ethos, the Black Feather, a symbol of retribution against corruption, speaks to a part of him that yearns for change in the rot that has seeped into the city's core. His contemplation is interrupted by a soft knock at the door. A trusted servant enters, bearing a message sealed with the sigil of the High Council, a summons for Alaron to attend an urgent meeting at dawn. The council, no doubt spurred into action by the magistrate's assassination, seeks the testimony of those last seen at the festival. As the servant departs, leaving the seal unbroken on the table, Alaron knows the decision is no longer just his to bear. Tomorrow, his words could alter the course of Veilgarden's destiny. With a heavy heart, he watches the night deepen outside his window, feeling the isolating weight of the choice that looms before him. As dawn breaks over Veilgarden, the city awakens to the somber news of Magistrate Corvinus's death. The initial shock gives way to murmured speculations and cloaked fears among the populace and the nobility alike. The High Council, desperate to maintain order and assert control, appoints investigator Alara Thorne to lead the inquiry. Known for her sharp intellect and unyielding resolve, Alara approaches the task with a mix of skepticism and precision. The scene shifts to the garden where the magistrate's body was found. Alara, her cloak drawn tight against the morning chill, surveys the area with a meticulous gaze. Every detail is catalogued: the position of the body, the absence of struggle, and notably, the Black Feather, its significance not lost on her. Alara's team of guards and lesser investigators fan out, securing the area and gathering statements from the festival's attendees, many of whom recall the night's revelries, but nothing of violence. As they work, Alara kneels beside the feather, enclosed in a clear evidence pouch, her mind racing through the implications of such a calling card. The investigation leads her next to the witnesses. She starts with the nobles, those who were last seen near the magistrate. Their testimonies are a blend of rehearsed shock and genuine ignorance, offering little in the way of answers, but painting a picture of the magistrate's last known interactions. Alara knows that the true challenge lies not just in solving a murder, but in navigating the intricate web of power and secrecy that binds Veilgarden. As she leaves the garden, her resolve hardens. This investigation will peel back layers many would prefer kept hidden. With the Black Feather in hand, a symbol that now marks both an end and a beginning, she steps into the labyrinth of political intrigue that snakes beneath Veilgarden's streets. Investigator Alara Thorne's efforts begin to coalesce as she pores over the gathered evidence in her dimly lit office. Maps of Veilgarden and its notable gatherings during the Festival of Masks are spread across her desk, alongside various witness testimonies and sketches of the crime scene. The haunting image of the Black Feather lingers at the forefront of each discussion, beckoning a deeper meaning. Midway through her review, a junior investigator bursts into her office, breathless with urgency. In his hand, he holds a small sealed bag. Inside, a piece of crumpled paper found hidden beneath a loose stone near where Magistrate Corvinus was discovered. Alara, with practiced calm, opens the bag and unfolds the paper, revealing a cryptic note. Justice balances the scales. The words strike a chord in Alara, echoing the silent message of the Black Feather. She muses on the possibility that the assassin, known only as the Silent Footsteps, is not just a mere murderer, but a vigilante enacting a form of poetic justice. This new evidence suggests a calculated motive linked to the magistrate's known corrupt dealings, potentially a signal to others who tread similar paths. Fueled by this revelation, Alara updates her investigation strategy. She decides to delve into the magistrate's past cases, seeking connections that might explain the motive behind such a public execution. Her search leads her to old court documents and sealed records, hinting at buried scandals and overturned decisions that benefited the city's elite at the expense of the powerless. As night falls, Alara sits back in her chair, her eyes tracing the words on the paper once more. The clue has opened a new avenue in the investigation, suggesting that the answer to the magistrate's death lies in the very justice he twisted during his tenure. Determined, Alara prepares to follow this lead into the deeper, darker corridors of power within Veilgarden, where secrets and dangers await. In the concealed depths beneath Veilgarden, the chamber of the Guild of Shadows pulses with tense anticipation. The Guild's council, shrouded in darkness save for the flickering light of a single low-hanging lantern, convenes in an emergency session to discuss the assassination of Magistrate Corvinus, a development that threatens the delicate balance of power they've long manipulated. The Guildmaster, a figure cloaked in a tapestry of shadows, addresses the room with a voice both calm and commanding. The death of Corvinus is not just an act of vengeance, but a message. One that could unravel the threads we've woven through the city's fabric, he states, his gaze sweeping over the assembled members. As whispers fill the chamber, a senior member known as Varus steps forward, holding a copy of the cryptic note found near the magistrate's body. Justice balances the scales. He reads aloud, the words echoing ominously. This assassin, known as the Silent Footsteps, operates with knowledge of our affairs. We must consider the possibility that they are either a former ally or a new enemy. The discussion shifts toward the implications of their exposed vulnerabilities. Another member, Lysa, suggests, if the Silent Footsteps is targeting the corrupt within the city, many of us might find ourselves at the end of their blade. We need a strategy to shield our operations, or better, turn this situation to our advantage. The Guildmaster nods thoughtfully, then makes a decisive call to action. We will intensify our surveillance and infiltrate the investigator's circle. If this assassin is drawing lines, it's crucial we learn their next move before they strike again. Meanwhile, we must reinforce our alliances and prepare contingencies for those among us who are compromised. As the meeting concludes, the members of the Guild of Shadows disperse, each returning to their web of influence, tasked with shoring up defenses and gathering intelligence. The stakes are higher now, and the shadowy paths of Veilgarden's underworld buzz with new urgency, as the Guild positions itself not just to react, but to control the unfolding chaos. Alaron stands by the window of his stately room, gazing out at the bustling city below, his thoughts as tumultuous as the crowds in the streets of Veilgarden. The urgency of the High Council's summons weighs heavily on him, reminding him of the gravity of his decision. With the meeting only hours away, he feels the weight of his noble lineage and the expectations that come with it pressing down upon him. Restlessly, he turns away from the window and walks over to his study, where he pulls out a worn, leather-bound journal. Sitting down, he begins to write, detailing the assassination he witnessed, his thoughts interwoven with the ethical implications of his next steps. He pauses often, his hand hovering over the page, conflicted between his duty to uphold justice and his instinct for self-preservation. The quiet of the room is broken by a soft knock. Alaron looks up to see his closest confidant, Saron, enter. "You sent for me, my lord?" Saron asks, closing the door behind him. Alaron nods, gesturing for him to sit. He shares the contents of the journal, revealing the torment of his choice. Saron listens intently, his expression solemn. When Alaron finishes, Saron leans forward, his advice measured and thoughtful. "You stand at a crossroads, Alaron," he begins. "To reveal what you know could bring danger, not just to you, but to your house. Yet, silence might condone further corruption. Perhaps there is a third way, using this knowledge not merely to expose, but to influence change from within." This suggestion sparks a new perspective in Alaron, giving him a semblance of hope. The notion of leveraging his knowledge for greater strategic advantage, while risky, offers a way to act without the immediate peril of exposing himself. Resolved now with a course of action that aligns with both his moral compass and his duties as a noble, Alaron closes his journal. He thanks Saron, feeling fortified by the plan they've crafted together. As Saron leaves, Alaron prepares for the council meeting, ready to navigate the treacherous waters of Veilgarden's politics with newfound resolve. His decision, though fraught with danger, marks the beginning of his deeper involvement in the city's shadowy affairs. The night air is crisp, as the silent footsteps, cloaked in darkness, retreats to the sanctuary of their hidden quarters beneath the bustling streets of Veilgarden. The room, sparse and shadowed, contains little more than a table littered with maps, scrolls, and various tools of the assassin's trade. A single lamp casts a pool of light over a parchment detailing the hierarchy of the city's elite, marked with notes and several names crossed out, including that of Magistrate Corvinus. Sitting down, the assassin reflects on the recent kill. The act had been a statement, one meant to stir the waters of the corrupt underbelly of Veilgarden. As they trace a finger over the next name on the list, the silent footsteps contemplates the repercussions of their actions so far and the ripples yet to come. Each target had been chosen with meticulous care, serving a purpose in their broader mission to rebalance the scales of justice. Pulling a small, intricately carved box from a drawer, the assassin retrieves a new black feather. This feather, like those left before, would serve as both signature and warning. The preparation for the next move is methodical, a ritual that sharpens focus and resolve. Turning their attention back to the parchment, the silent footsteps plots the course for the next target, a high-ranking official known for exploiting the city's resources for personal gain. The assassin's network of informants had been invaluable, and recent whispers had pinpointed the official's whereabouts at an upcoming public gathering. As the plans solidify, the silent footsteps pens a cryptic message, similar to the one left near Corvinus. This message, destined to accompany the next black feather, would be a direct challenge to those who dared to perpetuate the city's decay. With each target, the intention is not just to punish, but to provoke thought, to instigate fear among the corrupt, and to kindle hope among the downtrodden. Completing the preparations, the assassin extinguishes the lamp, the room swallowed by darkness once more. Stepping out into the night, the silent footsteps merges with the shadows, moving towards the next phase of their plan with cold precision and unwavering purpose. The night ahead would be long, and by dawn, another powerful message would be sent, echoing through the corridors of power in Veilgarden. As Alaron leaves the council meeting, his mind swirling with the covert plans discussed with Saron, he feels a tap on his shoulder. Turning, he encounters a cloaked figure whose face is obscured by the deep hood of their garment. The figure gestures for quiet and discreetly leads Alaron to a secluded alcove away from the prying eyes of the council hall. "I know who you are, Lord Alaron, and I believe you seek the same justice for Veilgarden as I do," the figure whispers, their voice low and urgent. Alaron, his suspicion piqued, but his interest undeniable, listens intently. "You witnessed something last night? Something that could change the tide against corruption in this city," the figure continues, their knowledge of Alaron's secret sending a chill down his spine. Reluctantly, Alaron nods, acknowledging his burden. The figure reveals their identity as Mira, a former scholar of the city's archives now turned rogue after uncovering layers of deceit entwined within the city's governance. Mira proposes an alliance, offering access to classified documents and insider knowledge that could expose the network of corruption, information that Alaron, even with his noble standing, could not reach alone. Though wary of Mira's sudden appearance and the potential trap it could represent, Alaron recognizes the opportunity to amplify his impact within the city's political landscape. Mira's offer could provide the leverage he needs to initiate change from within, giving him an edge over his rivals and enemies alike. The meeting concludes with Mira handing Alaron a small, sealed envelope containing a sample of the documents proving high-level embezzlement tied to several of the city's officials. "Meet me at the dusk in 3 days at the Old Viridian Library if you decide to accept my help," Mira says before slipping away into the shadows, leaving Alaron with the envelope and a decision that could alter his path forever. Back in his study, Alaron examines the contents of the envelope. The documents are authentic, detailed records of illicit transactions and bribes. His resolve hardens. With this new alliance, Alaron sees a path forward not just to navigate, but to steer the murky waters of Veilgarden's politics. Yet, he remains cautious, aware that in the world of shadows, Every ally could also be an enemy. Under the fading light of dusk, Alaron makes his way to the old Viridian Library, a once grand edifice now cloaked in ivy and shadow, the perfect venue for clandestine gatherings. As he approaches, his steps echo softly against the cobblestones, blending with the rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle evening breeze. The air is thick with the scent of old books and forgotten tales, heightening the sense of historical gravity to their meeting. Inside, the library's vast halls, lined with towering bookshelves, offer a sanctuary of silence. Alaron finds Mira waiting in a secluded corner, surrounded by ancient tomes that speak of Veilgarden's storied past. Her face, now visible, reveals sharp, discerning eyes that seem to miss nothing. Mira greets him with a nod, her expression serious. "Thank you for coming, Lord Alaron. I understand the risks involved," she begins, her voice echoing slightly in the grand space. She then unfurls several documents on a dusty table. Maps, transaction records, and letters that weave a complex web of corruption implicating several high-ranking officials and esteemed nobles, some of whom Alaron recognizes as his acquaintances, even friends. As they pore over the documents, Mira explains her own journey from scholar to whistleblower. She had stumbled upon these secrets accidentally, and once she started pulling at the threads, what she uncovered was too significant to ignore. The corruption is not just a few bad seeds. It's a rot that has spread deep within the roots of our city, she declares, her determination evident. Alaron listens, his resolve mingling with a rising tide of apprehension. The information is explosive, capable of toppling powerful figures and reshaping the city's governance. Mira proposes they use this knowledge strategically, not just to expose, but to negotiate, to manipulate the outcomes in favor of a more just governance. As the meeting draws to a close, Alaron feels the weight of the path ahead. Mira's resources and his position could indeed make a formidable alliance, but the game they were about to play was perilous. "We need to be careful, Mira. If we are to bring about change, it must be done smartly, or we risk becoming targets ourselves," he cautions. With a shared understanding of the stakes, they part ways with a plan to meet again, each step calculated and every move covered in secrecy. As Alaron leaves the library, the documents tucked safely under his cloak, he steps back into the night with a new purpose, aware that the road ahead would test every ounce of his cunning and courage. Back in the safety of his estate, Alaron spends the night contemplating the documents spread out before him. The names and transactions detailed within the papers are not just a map of corruption, but also a potential blueprint for reform, if wielded with precision. By morning, he has made his decision. The risks of action are outweighed by the potential to reshape Veilgarden for the better. Before dawn breaks, Alaron sends a discreet message to Mira, agreeing to her proposal and requesting another meeting to plan their next steps. The response comes quickly, and they arrange to meet at a seldom-used warehouse by the docks, a place where the noise of the city would cover their discussions. When Alaron arrives, Mira is already there, her figure a shadow against the crates. She greets him with a nod, and without preamble, they get down to business. "We need to act quickly and decisively," Mira states, unrolling a detailed city map across an old barrel. Her finger traces lines connecting various officials to illicit dealings. Each of these can be used either as leverage or to incite a call for reform, but we need allies. Alaron understands the necessity. Alone, they are vulnerable, but with the right support, they can create a wave of change. "I have contacts among the younger nobles, those like myself, disillusioned with the old ways. They could be our allies if we show them what we found," he suggests. Together, they draft a series of anonymous communications to these potential allies, couching their words carefully to avoid drawing the attention of the city's spy masters. Each letter is a call to action, inviting the recipients to join in a discreet coalition aimed at rooting out corruption. Over the next few days, responses trickle in, curious, cautious, but ultimately confirming attendance to a secret meeting. Alaron feels a mix of anticipation and anxiety. This was turning into something far bigger than he had first imagined when he had decided to keep the secret of the silent footsteps. The chapter closes as Alaron and Mira prepare the warehouse for the meeting, setting up chairs in a circled pattern, each one representing a strand of hope for Veilgarden. As the sun sets, casting long shadows through the dusty windows, Alaron steps back to survey the room. Tonight, they would either begin the journey towards a new dawn for Veilgarden, or entangle themselves further in its dark web of intrigues. As the Festival of Masks draws to a close, the streets of Veilgarden slowly empty, the echoes of laughter and music fading into the quiet of the night. Lanterns that once flickered brightly are now extinguished, and the vibrant decorations are taken down, signaling the end of the city's annual revelry. But for Alaron, the conclusion of the festival marks the beginning of a far more significant and perilous venture. Standing alone on his balcony, Alaron watches as the last of the festival-goers make their way home, their masks of gaiety replaced by the masks of their everyday lives. The weight of the evening's forthcoming meeting presses heavily upon him, a stark contrast to the emptying streets below, filled with remnants of celebration. His thoughts are interrupted by a soft knock at his door. It's Saran, come to offer last-minute counsel. Remember, Alaron, Saran advises with a stern yet supportive tone, tonight is not just about exposing the corrupt. It's about proving that Veilgarden can be led back to honor and prosperity. Alaron nods, the resolve in his heart steeling his nerves. He dons a simple, unadorned mask, an emblem of the transparency he hopes to bring to Veilgarden's leadership. With one last look at the quiet city, he departs for the warehouse, the sealed documents, and the covert messages secured in his cloak. The warehouse, dimly lit and spacious, slowly fills with the figures of Alaron's new allies. Each arrives masked, not for festivity, but for anonymity, their true identities hidden not out of deceit, but out of caution. As they gather, murmurs of uncertainty and determination mingle in the air, forming a tapestry of shared resolve. Alaron steps into the center of the circle, clearing his throat before addressing the gathered crowd. "Thank you for heeding the call," he begins, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart. "Tonight, we stand together not just as nobles, but as stewards of Veilgarden's future." As the meeting unfolds, plans are made, alliances forged, and strategies devised. With each passing hour, the seeds of a new order are sown, growing from the fertile ground of shared discontent and hope. As dawn approaches, the meeting adjourns with a silent accord, each member leaving with a piece of the future in their hands. Alaron remains behind, watching the first light of morning creep through the warehouse windows. The festival has ended, but the real work, the challenge of cultivating justice and integrity in the shadowed halls of Veilgarden, has only just begun. With a deep breath, he steps out into the new day, ready to face whatever challenges it might bring.